Hi guys, I hope you are doing well. I'm gonna begin this session with other sketching or drawing commands. For example, circles. I open it and then I move the dockable window. I fix it here. Well done. The first one and the simplest one is circle center radius. I pick the command and then in the scene, at first I should specify the center of the circles. Here I'm gonna give you a point. I recommend you to start your sketching from the origin point. While you want to start your project, consider the origin point while start sketching. And another point here is that if you enter 0 and then press enter, then entering this 0 in the command line would select the origin point in the scene. Check this out. This is the origin point in the scene, which it is considered as the center of the circle. Let's try it again. I pick the circle and then, as you can see, we should specify the center of the circle. So instead of using grid snap and zooming, I can enter 0 in the command line and then press enter. This gives me the origin point of the scene. So please consider this point while you want to start your sketching like the circles. So what is next? The radius. We should specify the radius, as you can see in the top view. For example, 30 meters. Enter like this. And the second one is circle diameter. By using this command we sketch the circle by the diameter. For example, here in the scene I want to sketch this. As you can see, the size of the circle is based on the diameter, not the radius. And when you are clicking, note the points like @ or the less than symbol for specifying the angle or the length. All of these are applicable to the circles too. I press F8 and then I want to specify the value of the diameter, 30 for example, or 25. Then as you can see, I can specify the direction or end of the diameter. So the points that I told you in last sessions are applicable to the sketching commands, and you can use them here. And just in order to focus on the main points, I do not repeat them again. Here you may ask about the differences between those two circles that were sketched in two different approaches. The first one by the radius and the center, and the second one by the diameter. I should say that some of these commands got their specific applications. Let's check it out. And as I told you before, try to sketch your objects in perspective view. Here consider that I'm gonna sketch a line, a vertical line perpendicular to the work plane, two lines. Suppose that I'm gonna sketch circles from the end lines of these two lines. Here can I use circle radius center? Absolutely not, since it is hard to find the center point. Or I should use another line in order to find the center point. But if I use diameter, at first let me activate the snap of point in order to enable other snaps. Then if I click on the end point, then I can have the circle, as you can see, which is associated to the two vertical lines in the perspective view. And as I mentioned before, the skill of sketching the objects in the perspective view or in the 3D view is required, since we are working on these to be able to sketch some organized and some complex and specific surfaces. So do not focus only on the top views or 2D drawings. So work in perspective view to develop your skills in sketching actually. So this was one of the applications of circle diameter that I wanted you to know. The next item is circle by 3 points. If I pick this command, then we can have the circle by specifying 3 points. I deactivate F8 like this way. Check this out, the circle is prepared, which is used in some specific cases. And if I want to show you the applications of this type of command in sketching the circles, for example, let me sketch a line, a vertical line here, perpendicular to the work plane, like this. Then I pick the circle 3 points. Then I can associate the circle to the 3 lines to the ends. And in the continuation, we will work on other commands of circle like this. For instance, I can convert the circle into a, wait for a second please, perspective view. I search for planned surface to convert it to a surface at first, and then pipe. Following that, I'm gonna associate profiles to them. Check this out in the rendered video preview. Or for instance, I'm gonna sketch 3 rectangles here. Consider these objects or these curves. Then here I need a circle to position it between these 3 rectangles, and the circle should have 3 intersections with the midpoint of these rectangles. So we can use circle 3 points. Then I pick midpoints like this midpoint. But here I do not click on the midpoint since I wanna move it upwards, so I hold down Control and then I click and drag like this. Right now the circle is perpendicular to the rectangle. That, as I told you before, we can use Control during other commands. I mean, at this condition we can't use vertical lines, so we hold down Control instead to move the point upwards. Check this out. I hold down Control, I move it upward, and the next one by this way, and then the third one like this. Then we can have the circle that here, if I open the top view, it is positioned between these 3 rectangles. Don't forget to practice these cases. So let us go on. And the next one for sketching a circle is, I just want to work on the most practical ones. So the commands which I skip actually, are not that much practical and useful. But what about these two? Previously I talked about the green and red axis, which were related to the vertical lines. So here in circle vertical to C-plane diameter, let's check it out. Circle vertical to the current plane by diameter, and the another one is the circle vertical to the diameter by the radius. That if I sketch the circle in the front view, we can have the vertical circle. So we can use either of these ways. That these 3 got their own specific applications. And the next one is circle around curve. But what is this? What do you think? Here, if I pick this command, at first I should specify my curve. For example, the closed circle, or the closed curve actually. Then I should specify the center. Then the circle would be like a ring around the circle. Check this out. This is circle around curve, like a ring. I specify the curve at first, then I specify the center point, then I sketch the circle, like this, around the curve. Then you can specify the radius and have the circle. What about the last topic in circles which is deformable circle? Let me give you some examples. Here, if I sketch an ordinary or a simple circle, but the circle deformable, as you can see on this screen, if I pick this command and then sketch the deformable circle, apparently they seem to each other, they are similar to each other. But if I select it, as you can see, it is divided into by some points that I will talk about them later. While the ordinary one is like this, the count of the points are more. Here, if we modify the deformable circle, I will teach you the modification of the circles in the future sessions. They will be modified smoothly, as you can see on the screen. But while the normal or the ordinary circles are not smoothly modified. So because of this one is called deformable circle, which got the capability to be deformed, while the other one does not have it. Even you can adjust the point counts, as you can see is specified 12. If I click on point count, then I can enter my desired value 8. Then I sketch the circle, check this out. Then we will have 8 points on the circle. Let me give you another example by using point count and sketching an object, for example 12, and then I sketch the circle. I select it, Then I select some of the points like this, then in perspective view, then I deform the circle like this. We will work all of these and all of these in future sessions, don't worry guys. And then I want to convert it to a surface patch. Let's check it out guys. By this way, this is the application of the deformed circles, or using deformable circles, or another example by using these. For example, we can have them like this. Check this out. I mean, we can have interesting surfaces by using this type of tool or command. But note that while you are choosing one of the circles commands, you got some options here like deformable, vertical, 2 points, 3 points, tangent. I mean, if I choose the 2 points, I can switch to deformable, or even I can switch to 3 points, as you can see. Like this, check it out. Then I can sketch it in 3 points. Well done. And the next command is ellipse, which is similar to the circles. Let's work on it. For example, by the center point, or by 3 points. I mean, by using diameter actually, I'm sorry. Then by using the center points. Then the another one that you can sketch it inside a rectangle like this. You know, these are very simple, that you can be skilled at them by some practices. And we got the deformable ellipse as well. Check this out, that we got some points that we can deform them smoothly like this. That later we will work on creating surfaces in the future sessions. Let's talk about the arcs, which is a significant topic here, and we're gonna consider it closely. The first one is arc center start angle. Let me give you an example by using this. At first I should specify the center of the arc, and then I hold down shift to restrict the line, and then I can rotate it by this way. Then this would be the result. Check this out. Let's try again. This time I wanna sketch it from the origin point. So I enter 0 in the command line, enter by this way. Then for the start of the arc, we need the length and also the angle. For example, 30 meters, enter. And if the angle is 0, I can hold down shift, or I can press F8 and then click. Otherwise, we can specify the angle by using the given techniques. So this was the start of the arc. Let me try again by specifying the value. At first, I should specify the center of the arc, which is the origin point. So again, 0 and then enter. Then we should specify the start point of the arc. I try again. Then the center of the arc. As I mentioned before, I enter 0 in the command line, then I press enter. Right now the origin point is selected. Then I should specify the radius of the arc and also the angle of the start point, like 45 degrees, and 30 meters for the radius. So I import the less than symbol in the command line, 45 enter, and then the radius, which is 30, enter. Well done. Then I click. Then the start point will be specified. Then I should specify the end point of the angle. And I told you a point about the angles, if you remember, about the positive and the negative values. The positive values resulted in anti-clockwise direction, and the negative value resulted in clockwise direction. For example, for a 90 degrees arc, if I wanted to start from right to left, I should specify a positive value. So the direction that you move the marker of the mouse does not matter. I mean, if I specify 90, check this out. Since the value is positive, it will be rotated anti-clockwise, like this way. Let me give you another example, since it is important. Arc center radius by the origin point. At first I specify the length, 30, enter. Then I can press F8. if I want it to be straight, or I can hold down shift and then click. I want to have a semicircle at the bottom part. So what value should I enter or specify? I mean, a negative or a positive value. 180 degree or minus 180 degrees. Since it is clockwise, it should be a negative value. So the movement of the mouse does not matter. Since at any condition we should type minus 180 degrees, and then this would be the result as our arc. Let us work on some other cases. Suppose that we got a rectangle. So please watch this part carefully and don't forget to practice it. Suppose that I'm gonna have a semicircle in a vertical way, actually in the front view, and here as you can see we do not have a vertical arc in the list of arcs, so we have to sketch it in the view. But at first I pick the command of arc. Here I can start sketching from the perspective view or even starting from top view, right here from the midpoint, in order to make sure that I'm starting from the midpoint of the side. After specifying the correct side, then in front view, I can complete the semicircle like this in order to have a vertical semicircle. So as I mentioned before, if a command required, for example, 4 clicks, we can have each of the clicks at each of the views if we want. Let's try again. Arc command, then the center of the arc. I specify the midpoint of the rectangle side. Then in order to sketch the semicircle vertically, I open front view and then I sketch the semicircle vertically like this. By this way, and the next arc is arc start end point on arc by using 3 points actually. That before I have exemplified such a case in the circles by 3 points, as you remember, and here we got the same thing, the end point of this line. But note that you specify the midpoint of the semicircle or the arc at last. Did you get it? At first, as you can see, we should specify the start of arc, then end of arc, then the point on arc. This is the correct order for sketching the arc by 3 points. Start, end, and then the midpoint, and then this will be the result. Very well. In the continuation, I'm gonna sketch an interesting arc. For example, I sketch a rectangle at first like this on the work plane, and one more rectangle there like this way. Then here, if I want to have a vertical arc between the 2 vertices of these 2 rectangles, what should I do? I pick arc by 3 points. I specify the end of the arc and then the point of the arc. I'm gonna start an end and then for the point of the arc. Great, I should sketch it in the front view like this if I want to have it vertical. Then this would be the result. I try again. At first the start of arc, then end of arc at the midpoint, and then I switch to the front view, and then I sketch it. I specify the point of the arc. Then this would be the result. Well done. And another interesting thing, let me show you again. I pick the command of arc 3 points. For example, the start of the arc and then the end of the arc. And then here in the perspective view, I can hold down Control and then drag the mouse for having a vertical arc like this. So this time, instead of sketching it in the front view, I held down Control and then I click and drag. Another example, I sketch a line this way and then I pick the arc for the start and end of the arc and then the point on arc like the midpoint of the line. Then I hold down Control, I drag, and then we will have this like this way. So it could be very practical, using the 3 points arc, start, end, and point. The next one is arc start and direction at the start. Let's have a simple example of it at first, and then I will tell you the points and the applications. I pick the command and then I start of arc, then end of arc. I hold down shift to restrict the direction. Here as you can see, there is a line which determines the direction of the start of the arc. That by the movement of the mouse we can control it, and then by a click we can fix it. But you may find it unuseful. but I want to tell you the specific application of this. So let's see. For example, I sketch a rectangle, disable, then end of the arc, start of the arc, and then the direction at the start. As you can see, we can control the direction. Here you may say that we could have sketched it by the 3 points arc, so what is the difference? Yes, you're right, but there are some points and techniques that you need to know. But here there is a question that how do we can sketch an arc in a vertical way? Actually, in the different types of sketching an arc, we do not have a vertical model, a vertical approach. For example, like the circle, as you can see, we got vertical to C-plane diameter. We do not have such a command in the arcs, so we have to use some tricks. So for sketching a semicircle or an arc vertically, we got two solutions. So right now I'm gonna sketch a rectangle, and then we will consider it. I just want to check this out and focus on it like this. Consider this rectangle or a square or whatever. And then I'm gonna sketch a semicircle vertically. We have been working on the solutions, as you remember. What is the first one? Very well, here I can pick the arc command, then I should specify the center of the arc there, and then I can complete it in the front view in a very simple process like this. But let me tell you a small point about it. I fix the arc dockable window here. You have to specify the center of the arc at the perspective or top view. If you specify the start of the arc, then you won't be able to have the arc vertically in front, as you can see, since we have specified the direction in the view of perspective. So don't forget that here you have to choose or specify only the center of the arc, and then you can specify the start of the arc in the front view and then the end, like this. And as I told you before, you can use arc by 3 points as well, start, end, and the point. You can hold down Control and then drag your mouse, but this won't necessarily give you a semicircle. I mean, you will have an arc. You couldn't have exactly, a semicircle. What about the second solution or approach, which is using arc start and direction at the start, or direction arc? Let's check it out, which has a point that you need to know that I want to tell you. So watch this part carefully. Since it has an asset in comparison with others, we can sketch it by the start and then the direction at the start, like this. We can control the curveness or the amount of curving. But here if I hold down shift in order to restrict the direction, then we can have the semicircle exactly. Check this out. And do you agree if I move the direction upward vertically, we shall have the arc vertically too? Sure we have. So when we are specifying the direction at the start, if we open the front view and then hold down shift to restrict the direction at a vertical line, we can have the semicircle. Check this out. Let us try again. Again at the top view. At first I should pick the command by start and then the direction at the start. I specify the start and end points, and then the direction at the start. That right now here if I hold down shift in order to restrict the direction line to sketch the direction vertically, then we will have exactly a semicircle. But here if I open the front view and then sketch the direction at the start there, we can have the arc vertically too, perpendicular to the work plane. I hold down shift and I sketch it. Let's check it out in the perspective view. As you can see, the arc is sketched vertically on the work plane, and it is exactly a semicircle, which is very practical in the most parts. So it is evident that here if I pick the arc by direction, then I specify the start and end and then the direction. Here I can hold down Control and then drag it upwards for having a vertical semicircle. Let's try again. You see that it is very practical. First, a start of arc, end of arc, and then for the direction, I can hold down Control instead of opening the front view. I hold down the marker of the mouse on the point, then I hold down Control, I click and drag. Then I move it upwards like this. But here you may say that sketching a vertical line in front view is simpler than the holding control. Why should we hold down control while we can sketch into the front view? Check this out. Of course, you're right, but sometimes you may have some challenges. Sometimes there are some limitations. Let me give you an example that you have to hold down control. Suppose that you got, for example, two rectangles, and then you want to sketch a semicircle between the gap of these two rectangles. So we can't have the semicircle in the front view, since the semicircle is not parallel to the work plane, I mean to the view actually. So if the arc or the semicircle was not parallel to the view, we can't use arc, center, start, and angle. Let's try. I sketch the line at first, and then I want to specify the midpoint like this. Then at the front view, and here as you can see, it is clear that we can't have the semicircle in the right position. Check this out. While by using arc by start, end, and direction, we can sketch this and handle it. Start, end, and then the direction. We can hold down control, then have the vertical semicircle, or we can sketch it in the front view instead of holding down control. I switch to front, I hold down shift for restricting the line, and then finish. And we don't need another line, so that you don't need an auxiliary line to help you in sketching the semicircle. But if you don't want it to be necessarily a semicircle, you can use arc 3 points. Start, end, and then the point. Like the midpoint, we can hold down control and then bring it up. But you'll need the auxiliary line, which is selected. So guys, in your practicing time, please practice all of the examples and the cases. They are essential.